Diddy has put in his recommendation on what prison he wants sent to, and he's moving very calculated, and I honestly can't say I'm surprised. Diddy's lawyers just put in this motion to the judge asking for a recommendation for Diddy to be sent to a low-security prison, which is Fort Dix in New Jersey. And they highlight that Diddy wants to go to this prison for multiple reasons, but the main reason that they list this prison is because Diddy wants to try to get into RDAP. That is a prison program where you can actually get up to a year off your sentence if you struggled with substance abuse issues. And honestly, this is one of the best programs where you can get a substantial amount of time off of your sentence if you complete the program. But there's also some things that Diddy would have to meet to even get into this program, which I don't think is going to happen. We already know that Diddy is going to shoot his shot as hard as he can to try to get into this program, because already with what Diddy was sentenced and his time served added to that, he's only looking at about 2.5 years in total. If he was able to make it to this program, he could get up to another year off, meaning he'd only sit 1.5 years in prison. The main qualifier for you to be able to get into this program is show that you had a substance abuse issue before these charges came about and even during these charges, which we know Diddy can in fact meet, but there's also other things that go into why he could be disqualified for this program. The Bureau of Prisons is who is going to handle deciding if Diddy is actually eligible for this program. One of the biggest disqualifiers for this program is violence. The Bureau of Prisons will review the nature of current and past convictions. A felony that involved actual, attempted, or threatened use of physical force is a major disqualifier for early release, regardless of the judge's recommendations for this program. Diddy's 2 guilty charges are not qualifiers of violent crimes because he was just charged with transportation to engage in prostitution. But the next part is a big deal for Diddy. It says the judge's statements at trial and information in the pre-sentencing report, which is made up by the probation department to give you guideline ranges, are used by the BOP to determine your security classification and eligibility for programs like the RDAP. If the pre-sentence report documents violent conduct or the use of a weapon, you will likely be excluded from the early release incentive. And this is a big deal because we know that this was brought up in the pre-sentencing report before they sentenced Diddy on where they were getting that guideline range, and the judge also brought it up during trial. I am sentencing you because there was clear violence. There was huge evidence of violence throughout this trial. And I got my hands on the official transcripts, and this is exactly what the judge said, and it's actually way different to hear it from the actual transcripts about what he was saying about the conduct. He said a history of good works can't wash away the record in this case, which showed that you abused your power and control that you had over the lives of the women that you profess to love dearly. You abused them physically, emotionally, and psychologically, and you used that abuse to get your way, especially when it came to freak-offs and hotel nights. The defense's argument is that all of this was unrelated to the offense conduct in this case, and it doesn't hold up. Evidence of abuse in connection with the freak-offs and hotel nights is massive. I was sitting right here for it. I heard from it from testimony from Cassie Ventura and Jane. We read about it in text messages and emails. We saw it in the images of gashes, bruises, broken doors, and we saw the video of your savage beating of Cassie Ventura. This was subjugation, and it drove both Cassie Ventura and Jane to thoughts of ending themselves. That is the reality of what happened. And with that, we move to the court's obligation to impose a sentence that is sufficient but no greater than necessary to accomplish the goal of sentencing set forth in subsection A2. These are serious offenses that irreparably harm 2 women. Physical harm, emotional harm, and again, psychological harm, the effects of which continue to this day. You plied Cassie Ventura and Jane with illegal substances, forcing Miss Ventura into addiction, which she struggles with even today. The conduct occurred for over a decade with tremendous frequency over that time period. Why did it happen so long? Because you had power and the resources to keep it going, and because you weren't caught. And you paid for and organized these acts. You were no John. You were more than that. Even if your currency was satisfying your desires instead of money, but the coercion was the same, if not worse. For specific deterrence, while you have said here in court, and I've read it in your letter, you're sorry, you won't do this again, one thing that strikes me in particular, after Cassie Ventura's lawsuit had been filed, detailing many of the things that she testified about here in court, after the government had executed search warrants on your residences, after the brutal video of the 2016 beating had been made public, and just 1 month after you issued your Instagram apology where you said many of the things you said here today, you had another hotel night where you brutally assaulted Jane. As the government describes it, you kicked down 5 doors in Jane's home, lifted her off the floor by her neck in a chokehold, punched Jane in her head, kicked Jane's body, dragged Jane by the hair, and slapped Jane so hard that she fell down. Jane credibly testified to those things. According to her, you said, "Take this effing pill. You're not going to ruin my effing night. You better go out there. You're not going to ruin my effing night. Get out there. Suck his D. F him. I don't care. You're just not going to ruin my effing night." You then asked Jane mockingly, "Is this coercion?" And I am shocked that this judge was saying all of this like this in court. Bureau of Prisons is actually going to be reading this about what the judge said during this sentencing and how there was violence shown multiple different times throughout this trial, and I don't think Diddy is going to be eligible for this program. We know Diddy is going to try whatever he can. We also know that he is getting ready to appeal this judge's sentence. Literally the same thing that the judge told Diddy during the sentencing hearing. He told him, you literally show no remorse for the conduct that you were found guilty of. And in my opinion, I feel like the whole entire sentencing hearing was really just all I when it came to Diddy. I mean, even his lawyers were making it all about Diddy. To hear his lawyers after that sentencing hearing come out and say that the judge was acting like the 13th juror is actually crazy. This is where they would confirm that they are appealing this judge's sentence because they believe that he convicted him on acquitted conduct. But the judge also made it very clear in this transcript that I read, you are not being charged with these crimes that you were found not guilty of. I am charging you with conduct that I witnessed and evidence that we all saw throughout this trial, which this judge is allowed to do. Another big thing about the way the judge sentenced Diddy, he could have actually went higher. So Diddy really did get a good deal, and the judge even says this on the transcript. Probation department was actually asking for 70 to 87 months, and I actually went a little bit below their guideline, giving you 50 months because he took into consideration everything. And he said at the end of the day, there has to be accountability of the crimes that Diddy committed. He wasn't getting time served and walking out that same day. Oh yes, Diddy is still trying absolutely everything in his power to get out of prison as fast as he can, which to me seems he's lacking still accountability that he tried to claim that he had in court, and he was so very sorry. Were you actually sorry, or were you only sorry that you got caught? Y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.